Challenges within school libraries today are numerous. Some of these challenges include challenges to the intellectual freedom of students, to the equity of access of students, and to student privacy. According to the American Library Association, quote, intellectual freedom is the right of every individual to both seek and receive information from all points of view without restriction. It provides for free access to all expressions of ideas through which any and all sides of a question, cause, or movement may be explored, unquote. The intellectual freedom of students is challenged by challenged or banned books and internet filters. Challenges to books or book bans can result in books being removed from school libraries, which eliminates students' choice to engage with the text, thereupon infringing on their intellectual freedom. Unfortunately, statistics show that a high percentage of those who initiate book challenges are directly associated with schools in some way. This graphic shows that of those who initiate book bans, 32% are parents, 13% are board members or administrators, 10% are librarians or teachers, and 3% are students. Those who initiate book challenges stifle intellectual freedom as they remove opportunities for students to engage with literature of their choice. Nonetheless, Michael Gorman insists that it is the librarian's responsibility to open avenues and broaden inquiry for students. And so, one must continuously fight against such challenges. Adding to this, further statistics show that school libraries are the second most likely to experience book challenges. Ironically, these statistics also prove that prisoners are more likely to avoid infringements on their intellectual freedom than students. Then there are internet filters. In 2000, Congress passed the Children's Internet Protection Act and the Neighborhood Children's Internet Protection Act. These laws force schools to install technology protection measures or filters on all computers used to access the internet by minors and adults to protect against visual depictions of child pornography, obscenity, or material that is considered harmful to minors, as defined under the federal law, which considers minors to be those less than 17 years of age. The American Library Association claims that this practice of filtering greatly affects the intellectual freedom of minors. They state, quote, overblocking legal content affects minors' First Amendment right to access constitutionally protected material in the school library, unquote. They add to this by stating that, quote, filtering de-emphasizes education as the best means of teaching students to be smart and safe while using the internet, unquote. Nonetheless, according to the American Library Association, it is the responsibility of the school librarian to protect minors' First Amendment right to read and receive information and ideas. In order to do this, school librarians must address intellectual freedom in school library programs before challenges occur. To acquire the necessary skills to advocate for intellectual freedom, librarians must continuously educate themselves on current issues related to intellectual freedom, as well as constantly participate in conversations with their peers so that they are able to develop sound arguments for the intellectual rights of their students. Additionally, librarians must be able to look for the positive when considering acquisitions. Lester Ashim suggests that in order to avoid becoming a censor, librarians must be seekers, those who look for the positive or reasons to include material in the collection, rather than censors, or those who look for the negative or reasons to exclude materials from the collection. In addition to challenges to intellectual freedom, students often encounter challenges to equity of access. The American Library Association says the following about equity, quote, equity extends beyond equality, fairness, and universal access to deliberate and intentional efforts to create service delivery models that will make sure that community members have the resources they need, unquote. One of the greatest challenges to equity of access in the school library results from students coming from low-income households where they are typically exposed to 30 million fewer words by age 4 compared to their more fluent peers. This is referred to as the word gap. The word gap can cause an equity of access issue for students if they go to a school library that does not supply information for them that they are capable of comprehending, or in other words, accessing. If a student cannot comprehend what she is reading, technically she does not have access to that content. So having resources is not enough. Rather, the library must contain resources for all students. In other words, school libraries must be designed to serve students of all reading levels, including those reading below grade level and English language learners developing their vocabularies. In order to ensure that every student has access to information, the school librarian must be knowledgeable about the capabilities of the students who they serve. For instance, they must have a concept of the range of reading levels within the school. This means that they must be able to collect and analyze data about the students. Additionally, they must be able to discern various students' passions and interests so they can provide materials that keep the students engaged. Finally, the student's right to privacy is constantly challenged. More so than not, the reason that students encounter issues with maintaining their privacy is because they, as well as their administrators, are uninformed about privacy rights and practices. So, according to the Library and Information Technology Association, school librarians must be able to, quote, educate administrators, faculty, and support staff about students' library privacy and the confidentiality of student data using a variety of communication methods. They should also be able to integrate online privacy into library instruction and programming and to advocate within the school or district for protecting students' privacy rights and learning management systems or other technologies that enable educators to monitor student reading and research habits, unquote. The process of educating others, however, begins with educating oneself. Thus, the school librarian must make every effort to maintain awareness of student privacy issues, as well as how to combat these issues. This may be accomplished by paying attention to challenges in the world of student privacy, as noted by the American Library Association. This website also provides resources that librarians can use to learn about how to advocate for their students' privacy. These issues are some of the many that school librarians encounter on a daily basis. They also encounter challenges with literacy and learning, stewardship, and service. For instance, in districts with little funding, school librarians could struggle to fulfill student needs because they are unable to acquire appropriate resources and technology for those students. This challenge to librarian service could interfere with their ability to prohibit challenges to equity of access. Fortunately, challenges to literacy and learning in the school library can be combated with the teamwork of librarians and teachers. And stewardship is something that relies solely on the librarian's efforts rather than the efforts of others, unlike challenges with intellectual freedom, equity of access, and privacy. Although the school librarian is destined to face many challenges in her field, these challenges are manageable with the right skill set. In order to achieve and maintain the skills necessary to combat these challenges, it is imperative that the school librarians make every effort to keep up with current events related to these challenges and constantly search for new ways to prohibit them. Some ways to do this include furthering their education through online courses, attending professional conferences, taking advantage of opportunities offered by educational publishers, and networking with other librarians and teachers. Thank you.